As we come on the air, there are reports coming in right now, 3 officers dead, several police officers shot. The images coming in right now, police racing to the scene in York County, Pennsylvania. Law enforcement officials telling ABC News several officers were shot. What we're also learning about the suspect, schools and residents told to shelter in place. The governor rushing to the scene, and what we have just learned tonight. Also tonight here, the major headline for the first time this year, under pressure from President Trump, the Federal Reserve cutting a key interest rate by 0.25%, citing a weakening jobs market in the U.S. It comes as President Trump is welcomed with royal fanfare in the UK. They're hoping to make a deal on tariffs to help their own economy. Thousands protesting the president's arrival. Images of President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein projected onto Windsor Castle. Tonight, the dramatic testimony on the Hill from the former head of the CDC, who was fired by RFK Jr. less than a month on the job. She says she was fired because she refused to sign off on new vaccine guidance without seeing data or the science to back it up. Tonight, there's news in the investigation, the alleged shooter in the Charlie Kirk killing, those final hours before he was taken into custody, and who it was who called police. Tonight, the tense moments between an air traffic controller and a passenger flight, radio calls repeatedly warning the pilot to turn away from Air Force One.
Pay attention, get off the iPad.
What happened next? Tonight, the famous singer and the disturbing discovery of a body found in the trunk of his car, now identified as a 15-year-old girl who'd been missing for more than a year. Tonight, FBI Director Kash Patel grilled over the Jeffrey Epstein files. Patel now saying he has never talked to President Trump about the Epstein files. The alarming scene tonight, the suspect ramming their car into the gate at the FBI in Pittsburgh. The scare in Boston tonight at Logan, the spark scene coming from an engine during takeoff. The incredible images showing a pod of killer whales sinking a boat. What's driving this? And tonight we're now tracking a tropical storm in the Atlantic.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight here with the breaking news. Authorities responding to reports of multiple police officers shot in York County, Pennsylvania, about an hour outside Lancaster near the Maryland state line. There is late word coming in tonight. At least 3 officers are dead. Law enforcement officials telling ABC News police were serving a warrant when the gunman opened fire. There is also news coming in on the suspect. Schools and residents told to shelter in place. Governor Josh Shapiro is on the scene at this hour. ABC's Whit Johnson leading us off.
Tonight, a swarm of law enforcement descending on this Pennsylvania neighborhood an hour outside Harrisburg. After multiple officers were shot and at least 3 were killed while serving a warrant.
Count of officers down, please. We have 1 officer down.
At least 2 officers transported to a nearby hospital. Emergency crews seen here loading a person into a medevac helicopter. The hospital saying both are in serious condition, adding that they've enhanced their security protocols. The first emergency calls coming in just after 2 this afternoon. Shots fired in a rural area in North Codorus Township.
We're going to have another officer that's going to be ground transported.
Nearby residents and schools told to shelter in place. Dave Miller lives across the street.
I heard the gunshots, many gunshots, and I saw an officer go down on the road.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro joining authorities.
This is an absolutely tragic and devastating day for York County and for the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We grieve for the loss of life, for 3 precious souls who served this county, served this Commonwealth, and served this country.
And David, the FBI is also on the ground providing assistance, and late today authorities have now confirmed the shooter is dead. David.
Whit Johnson leading us off on the breaking news tonight. Whit, we appreciate it. Now to the major headline about the American economy tonight. For the first time this year, under pressure from President Trump, the Federal Reserve cutting a key interest rate by 0.25%, citing a weakening jobs market in the U.S. This will bring down rates on credit cards, mortgages, car loans. It comes as President Trump is welcomed with royal pageantry in the UK. The British are hoping to make a deal with the U.S. on tariffs to help their own economy. It was a royal welcome, but thousands also protesting the president's arrival. Mary Bruce tonight, traveling with the president.
The British royal family tonight heaping on the pomp and pageantry. King Charles toasting President Trump at a lavish white tie banquet.
Mr. President, Mrs. Trump, it is with great pleasure that my wife and I welcome you to Windsor Castle.
This morning, the President and First Lady greeted by the Prince and Princess of Wales before joining with the King and Queen Camilla. Then a gilded carriage ride, the President and the King side by side. Trump is the first American president to get 2 state visits to the UK.
This is truly one of the highest honors of my life. Such respect for you and such respect for your country.
A visit with the royal family is a potent diplomatic tool as the UK hopes to persuade Trump to support Ukraine by ramping up the pressure on Russia. King Charles also nodding to his country's effort to navigate Trump's tariffs.
The United Kingdom was your partner in the first trade deal of your administration, Mr. President, bringing jobs and growth to both our countries. And no doubt we can go even further as we build this new era of our partnership.
The King well aware of the economic challenges in the UK and also back in the US. In fact, just today, the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates for the first time this year, citing a weakening American job market. That should lower interest rates on mortgages, credit cards, and auto loans. The Fed signaling more rate cuts could be on the horizon. Tonight, miles from Windsor, thousands taking to the streets of London to protest Trump's visit.
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
And the night before the president arrived, protesters projecting images of Trump and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein on the walls of Windsor Castle. But tonight, the president basking in the glow of a royal welcome.
Today was all about pageantry. Tomorrow turns to policy. President Trump sitting down with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, where they're expected to discuss the economy and trade and the war in Ukraine. David.
Mary Bruce traveling with the president tonight. Thank you, Mary. Back here in the U.S. and to the dramatic testimony on the Hill from the former head of the CDC who was fired by RFK Jr. less than a month into her job running the CDC. She says she was fired by the HHS secretary because she refused to sign off on new vaccine guidance without seeing the data or the science that would back it up. Jay O'Brien on the Hill tonight.
Tonight, former CDC Director Susan Menares testifying Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fired her less than a month after she was sworn in because she refused his order to pre-approve new recommendations for childhood vaccines before they were even written.
I could have stayed silent, agreed to the demands. I could have kept the office, the title, but I would have lost the one thing that cannot be replaced, my integrity.
Kennedy insisting Menares is lying.
I told her that she had to resign because I asked her, are you a trustworthy person? And she said no.
Today, Menares describing an August meeting where she says an angry Kennedy ordered her to rubber stamp a new schedule for which vaccines children should receive to be compiled by a CDC panel he had filled with vaccine skeptics.
I said, I cannot sign off on something before I see the data and the evidence. And he said and elaborated on this for some period of time, that there is no data and evidence, there is no science, and that I needed to commit to signing off on each and every one of those recommendations. And if I could not commit to that, I needed to resign.
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, a doctor, going back at that claim. Did Kennedy really want to change the childhood vaccine schedule without any research?
To be clear, he said there was not science or data, but that you still expected you to change the schedule.
Correct.
After the hearing, Cassidy, who's also a doctor, with this stark warning about Kennedy's hand-picked vaccine panel.
If the vaccine advisory panel makes recommendations to change the childhood vaccine schedule, should the American people have confidence in that decision?
No.
David, tonight that overhauled CDC vaccine panel will meet tomorrow for a 2-day marathon session to weigh critical recommendations on vaccines from measles to hepatitis B to COVID. And tonight, HHS is attacking Menares after her testimony, claiming she was fired because she, quote, acted maliciously to undermine the president's agenda. David.
Jay O'Brien live up on the Hill. Jay, thanks. Now to the alleged shooter in the Charlie Kirk killing. We have new reporting tonight involving those final hours before